Hello and welcome to the weekly Pre-Shabbat AGJC Zoom call. Each week we gather together the Jewish communities of all 6 GCC countries and our families and friends from around the world to hear a special message before Shabbat, light candles, hear Dvar Torah, pray and read a section from the weekly Torah portion. Like many of you, before the Abraham Accords, I watched Fauda. And what an honor it is to welcome Avi, the writer, producer and creator of Fauda, to our Zoom. The Association of Gulf Jewish Communities is the umbrella organization for the Jewish communities of GCC countries that are building and enhancing Jewish life in the region. While each community is independent, we share a common goal and vision for Jewish life to flourish in the Gulf for the benefit of both residents and visitors. To stay updated on AGJC events, please follow us on Twitter at @GulfJewish and visit our website www.gulfjewish.org. Shabbat Shalom, and continue to pray for peace to prevail around the world.
Thank you very much, Shuda. And now we're going to head over to, we'll start off in Israel. We'll go to Sammy, who's going to light this week's Shabbat candles.
Hi, I want to dedicate the beautiful light of the Shabbat candles today to many innocent people who are suffering, whether it be the hostages, soldiers, civilians, and their families. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'etzto v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת קודש.
Thank you so much, Sammy. And now we will head to Alex, who's going to lead us in Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shahamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishviyanu el hameyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad v'shem al tiferet v'letihila. Lecha Dodi likat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likat Shabbat lechu b'nei lecha כי מקור הברכה מהראש מקדם לסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עם מלוכה קום יצאי מתוך הפך רהב לך שבט בימי הבכר הוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. ימים ושמאל תפרצי ואת אדוני תריצי. על יד איש בן פרסי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Thanks, Alex. And now we'll turn to Avi Kanner, who's going to introduce today's speaker.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom and a blessed Friday. It brings me such great pleasure seeing so many of us together, cousins in the GCC and Israel and everywhere else in the world. It's a beautiful sight to see. I had the distinct privilege of introducing Avi Sakharov, a special guest whose work has bridged cultures and brought the complexities of Middle Eastern dynamics into living rooms all around the world. He's an acclaimed Israeli journalist and the creative mind behind the gripping TV series Fauda. He has dedicated his career to understanding and portraying Palestinian affairs with a depth and nuance rarely seen. He reflects a commitment to honest narratives. His service in the elite Duvdevan unit and his fluent Arabic have uniquely equipped him to co-create Fauda, a series that has captivated global audiences by showcasing the intense personal battles on both sides of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Beyond his screenwriting, his literary contributions have earned him accolades for their insightful analyses. We're eager to hear Avi's perspectives on narrative, reality, and perhaps how we, in the Gulf Jewish communities, can foster understanding through our stories. Shabbat Shalom, Avi, and thank you for joining us.
Shabbat Shalom, Avi, and I hope that everyone can hear me and see me. I'm sorry if I'm going to be a bit short. I have till 4 p.m. IT, meaning only 20 minutes, but I'll start. So, as Avi mentioned, yes, I've been covering the Middle East for the last 24 years, since actually June 2000. And before that, I was in the Israeli Special Forces in Duvdevan unit. And I think that all those experiences on the field, whether as a soldier or as a journalist, brought me together with my friend, my partner, the co-creator and the lead actor on Fauda, Lior Raz, to create this show that became very famous in the world and especially in the Middle East. And this is such a huge surprise for us. I mean, honestly, we didn't think that Fauda would be that successful in Israel. And of course, we didn't think that it will be successful in the world. But then understanding that it became one of the most watched shows all over the Arab countries, including Lebanon. Although the war that is going on for the last 30 years between Israel and Lebanon, more than 30 years actually. So it was a kind of a very nice surprise for us to understand that we became a kind of a window to the other side, whether for the Israelis that had a kind of a chance to see the other side in a different way, but also for Arabs that are living in the region, and suddenly they have a look at the Israeli Jewish side and understanding their motives and their beliefs and their ideology in a way. So Fauda, it's more than just a TV series. You know, there's so many TV shows in the world. We have Netflix and Amazon and Apple, and each and every one of them has dozens and dozens and dozens of TV shows, but there's something very unique, I think, about Fauda that makes it very appealing for a lot of people, for many people all around the world, again, from all different races, from all parts of the globe. And it's great. And it's fascinating for me as a creator to understand that this is what we managed to do. And after we started this thing as a kind of almost a joke, you know, it started off at 2010 in an evening in Miluim, in reserves, while Leo and I, we both served in that unit. And during the ceremony of a group of soldiers that just finished the course, I asked him if he had a dream about our military service. And he said that he had a dream about doing a movie. And I, as an author, I wrote 2 books. I said, wow, I really wanted to write a book about that. And he said, you know what, let's meet. And 2 weeks later, we've met in Tel Aviv. And we started to plan this thing that became Fauda. Back then, we didn't even know if it's going to be a TV show or a movie. But at the end, after consulting a friend that was working as a scriptwriter, but now he has a bakery, whatever. So he said you should do a TV show because it's about a team of people. It's not only about one guy. But even after deciding that you're going to do this show about undercover soldiers in Israel, you understand that you cannot bring only one side. And yes, I had a kind of, I don't know if a privilege, but I had a shliach tzibur, you call it in Hebrew, in the Bible, meaning you have a mission. And the mission is to go to the other side, to meet the same people that are considered to be your enemy, and to report about that to the Israeli side, to the Israeli audience, readers, whatever. Back then I was working for the Israeli radio, Israeli public radio, South Israel, Kol Israel. And I went to the West Bank, whether it was in Jenin or Bethlehem, Hebron, or Nablus, wherever. And I went to Gaza many times, Gaza City, Rafah, Han Yunis, all those areas. And I spoke to many of the people that were considered to be terrorists. But I spoke to them, I looked them in the eyes, they knew that I was Jewish, they knew that I was an Israeli, and they still spoke to me because they saw in me as a kind of a tool in order to get to the other side, in order to get to the enemy's brain. And I was aware of that, you know, I'm not just, they do not just talk to me because I'm nice. No, they talk to me because they saw me as a kind of a tool to send their messages to the enemy's side. But you get to see those people, and you get to meet those people. Hamas, Islamic Jihad, of course, the Palestinian Authority, Fatah. And I must say that, you know, the impression was that, especially during the meetings with Hamas, is that it's a very radical group. But at the end of the day, there's something that you can discuss with them. There's something that you can talk to them. I remember myself meeting for the first time Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, the spiritual leader of Hamas, the founder of Hamas, in a wheelchair in his house, of course, in Gaza. And the head of his chambers, the head of his office was a man named Ismail Hania. Back then, he's the general secretary of his office. And he made this interview happen. And I remember that I spoke to Sheikh Ahmad Yassin. He said that, you know, Avi, one day there will be an Islamic state from the river to the sea. And I must say that Sheikh Ahmad Yassin knew which river and which sea, not like some folks in the US and Europe that do not have an idea of what river and what sea am I talking about. And I told him, listen, but Simahat al-Sheikh, Mr. Sheikh, what will happen with all the Jews that are living here between the river and the sea if there will be an Islamic state? And he said they would go back to their houses in Europe, in the US, etc. And I told him, like in Simahat al-Sheikh, but Mr. Sheikh, look at me. My family is not from the US and it's not from Europe. And he asked, where is your family from? And I said, it's from Uzbekistan and Kurdistan. It's a big group of Jewish Kurds that came from Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. My family, the mother's side, came from the Kurdish area of Iraq and from the Kurdish area of Syria. My grandmom grew up in Qamishli, if you know what I'm talking about. And then he asked, what year did you come to Israel, your family? And I said around 1900, 1900. And he said, you can stay. And that was a kind of a relief to me to know that I can stay in the future to come Palestine. And I asked him, but what makes me so unique? He said, listen, all the people, all the Jews that were living in Palestine, till November 2nd, 1970, which is the Balfour Declaration, they can stay. All the others that came after 1917, they will need to leave and go back to their houses. Now, the thing about Hamas is that they were always very blunt and very clear. They didn't hide their intentions. It was me who chose to kind of say, nah, they do not really mean it. Nah, they know that they cannot kill all of us and, you know, wipe out the state of Israel and blah, blah, blah. They just, you know, this is their, okay, that's their ideology, but on the ground, they know that they cannot really do anything radical, really radical. I mean, of course, suicide attacks are radical, but again, not to wipe out the state of Israel. But I think that something has changed in Hamas, and this is the thing that I didn't understand. Because even if you would ask me if we would go back in time to October 6, 2023, what does Hamas plan? I would say, well, probably some demonstrations on the fence. They would like to have more people going into Israel and work there. That's it. Economic relief. This is what I had in mind. I didn't think that a day after October 7th, we will see 3,000 Hamas people and people from Gaza storming in the biggest incursion ever to the state of Israel, killing 1,200 people, kidnapping 242, and actually aiming to get even far and far and far, and maybe even getting to Tel Aviv, and definitely getting to some Air Force bases. And that was a crazy move from Hamas. I didn't think that they were crazy. I thought that they were radicals. I didn't think that they were suicidal. But since Yahya Sinwar took power over Hamas in Gaza, I think that things are changed in Hamas too. Now, I'm going back to before October 7th. And I remember myself and Leo and someone else named Noach that wrote with us the fifth season. We started to work on the fifth season before October 7th. And then Leo said, I have an idea. How about that tens of militants of Hamas will cross the border, take over a kibbutz, one kibbutz, and then held hostages. Held hostages. And I looked at Leo like that and said, like, what is this? Come on. I mean, it's not real. It's not realistic enough. And we in Fauda, we have to keep things real. This is our, you know, that's our flag, that it's very realistic. And Leo said, but why do you think that it's not realistic? And I said, what are the chances that the Israeli intelligence, the best intelligence in the world, won't know about tens of militants that are aiming to cross the border? There's no chance. And even if they will get to the border, because you have now all this crazy fence with those technological systems that if they see something, they shoot at it. There's no chance that they will be able to cross the border. So we don't have much time. Let's move on to another scenario. And this is what we did. We moved on to another scenario because the scenario of tens, not 3,000, tens of militants crossing the border, looked to me as not realistic enough. What we understood in the last 11 months, more than that, is that everything that we knew about the Middle East is irrelevant. I've been studying the Middle East since ever. You know, at the age of 18, I joined the Israeli Special Forces operating in the West Bank looking for Hamas terrorists. Then I studied my BA in Middle East Studies, including Arabic. Then my master degree, also Middle East Studies, about the connection between Hezbollah and Iran. That was 1999. The connection between Hezbollah and Iran. How close is that? And I said, it's definitely so close because of the interrelations, because of the family relations between the Shia in Iran and the Shia in Lebanon, Lebanon. And you cannot really say, no, they are way more Lebanese than Shiites. Not at all. The opposite. They are, first of all, Shiites, and then they're Lebanese. They are, first of all, working with the Iranians, and only then are working on behalf of the Lebanese people, if at all. So I think that, you know, you see what happened here, whether it was in Gaza, And whether it's now in Lebanon, and you understand that all the things that you had learned about the Middle East are falling apart, and today Israel is dealing with a huge monster. I wouldn't say an Iranian monster, but definitely an Iranian-supported monster that starts in Gaza, and then in Lebanon, and then in Iraq and Syria and Yemen, of course. Yes, just like what happened to us last night, that at 1 a.m. in the morning, I woke up with sirens and we found out that the Houthis, which is another sect in the Shia, they shot a long-range missile towards Tel Aviv. The good news is that, guys, even now, after all this terrible war and all the dead people, and Israel is still on its feet. What you see is that still the people here are very much determined, although, you know, there's always this argument about pro-Netanyahu, anti-Netanyahu, and this argument will continue probably. But at the end of the day, I think that most of the Israelis know who's their enemies. And yes, it's Hamas. And I think that the IDF managed to bring Hamas on its knees in Gaza. And this is something that needs to be said. The IDF military achievements in Gaza are very impressive. We managed to damage 2/3, if not more, than from the military wing of Hamas. The destruction, honestly, it's huge. I was there a few times, embedded with the troops. But bottom line is, you see that the amount of rockets that are being shot from Gaza towards Israel, it's close to zero. Close to zero. In the last months, there were 2 rockets. Yes, soldiers are still getting killed over there, but the IDF managed to punish Hamas. And I think that we're not at the end of the road there. We will see more of the IDF actions in Gaza. There's more to come. And I know that what the IDF is planning right now in Gaza is something that Hamas, it's unbearable for him. In the north, we're at the beginning of a war. Let us not be mistaken. You cannot call it any other form, any other word except for a war. Yes, it's still a kind of a limited scale war. Still, Hezbollah is not shooting all its long-range missiles towards Tel Aviv because he knows what's the price going to be. But at least there, Israel started a war, making Hezbollah pay a very heavy price for their stupidity, for the choice that Hassan Nasrallah did on October 8th, meaning the connection, the false connection, the artificial connection that he made between Lebanon and Gaza. And it's not the same people, it's not the same religion even, it's not even the same dialect, but he wanted to portray himself as the leader of the Arab world, and this is why he needs to protect the Palestinians. And then he dragged Lebanon into a war. The war started in a very tough way, meaning that Hezbollah bombed the north villages, kibbutz, towns of Israel, and created a kind of a zone where no residents are getting into. But in the last couple of weeks, the IDF is killing them. It's killing them literally. And we're talking about the pages, if any one of you forgot about that. The pages was one of the biggest hits that ever hit Hezbollah, ever. Since the foundation of this organization of 1982, meaning 42 years ago, there was never such a dramatic hit in their capabilities, in their leadership. The IDF managed to kill half of the chief of staff of Hezbollah. They managed to get to many of the militants operating for Hezbollah. Until that second, Hezbollah is still trying to figure out what on earth happened here. How come that they found Fuad Shukr and Ibrahim Akil, the 2 chief of staffs of Hezbollah? And I would like just to remind you, Ibrahim Akil and Fuad Shukr were members of the Islamic Jihad, original name of Hezbollah, back in 1982, responsible for the killing of hundreds Not only Israelis, but Americans, French, and more people. Even the suicide attack in Kuwait that took place during those years, they were responsible for that. So after 42 years, the Israelis managed to get to Akil and Fuad Shukr. And what I'm trying to say is that, yes, it's a long war. It's going to last for a while, unless there's going to be some kind of a miracle and we're going to hear about a ceasefire of 21 days or whatever. But even after the 21 days, it's not going to end there, because the problem, Hezbollah, is still going to wait for us there. And I'm not sure that I can tell you how does the end of the road look like right now. So with that, I can only wish to all of us Shabbat Shalom, a very good year, Rosh Hashanah Sameach, Shana Tova. Kul Am wa Antum B'Khair for the brothers that are talking Arabic. And I really hope that we'll be able to do more of that and to have a great year for all people, for our cousins and for us, a more peaceful year. Thank you very much.
Amen.
תודה רבה.
Well, I just want to thank you very much for taking time, especially out of your Friday, to speak with us today. I think it's pretty daunting, actually, that out of all the scenarios you guys have played out, that these far exceed those. So, but we do want to thank you very much. We wish you a Shana Tova and a Gemar Chatima Tova. And now we will turn to Rabbi Engelmeyer, who will share some words on this week's Parsha.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be with you. Thank you for the invitation, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear cousins also being with us. It's very hard to speak after such a fascinating story about what is going on. I would like to add, it can't be by coincidence. This Shabbat, we're going to read Parashat Nitzavim Vayelech. It's a weekly portion which talks about the Jewish people coming back to Israel. We say it in dozens of thousands of synagogues every week as a blessing. We recite, Veshav Hashem b'richamecha, Veshav v'kibetzcha mikol hamim asher hifitzcha Hashem Elokecha shama. That God is going after a lot of things happening in the diaspora after thousands of years. He's going to gather us back, and we'll come back to Israel and come back to God. And this is actually what we've seen during the last 100, 150 years with our own eyes. It's just the fulfilling of the prophecy, which stands already for 3,500 years. There's one other point which seems to be very suitable also now, standing before a new year and looking back on the last year. The weekly portion starts, you all stand before the Lord, before God, all of you together. And then the Torah goes on, Moshe Rabbeinu, our prophet, goes on to count everyone. He says, Rashechem, Shiftechem, Ziknechem, Shotrechem, the heads of your tribes, the elder ones, the officers, and he goes on, and the men, women, children, the strangers, even the ones who chop wood or the one who draw water for you. So the question is almost by itself coming up, why does Moshe have to say everyone, and then he starts to count everyone by itself? There are several answers, and each one has a very actual meaning for us as well. Or HaChaim HaKadosh says that here Moshe wants to emphasize that we are responsible for each other. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh lazeh. We have responsibility, so it's not enough to say everyone, but every group of people and every individual has to understand he and her belongs to this group and has responsibility on the other one, because we stick together. There is the explanation of the Netziv of Volozhin. He says that here the Moshe wants to emphasize another point, that every individual has something to contribution to the society, something which only this individual has to bring. someone else can't take the place and can't contribute what the other one has. And therefore, every group and every individual should see his and her contribution to the society, understand I'm making the difference. What I do, what I decide is important for everyone, not only for myself. And Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi, Ashkenazi chief rabbi of Israel, he says that here the Torah comes to emphasize that we're working not only as individuals, but as a society. And every group in the society has a very important task, especially the ones we think about to be very simple. That's not right. Even the simpler groups a lot of times have much more power of faith. They are willing to give their lives, as we have seen also throughout the last year, that big differences were made not only by leaders, but a lot of times by very simple people giving their lives and giving their hearts for the society and for other people. So all these explanations are right and bring us to a new year. We look upon the last year and we pray every day, and especially for the new coming year, we should stick together, be responsible for each other, and hope that all the Jewish people, all our sisters and brothers, but also the whole world should experience and live through a time of peace, of freedom, and everyone should be healthy back at home. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova Umetuka.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi Engelmeyer. We wish you and the Jewish community of Austria a Shana Tova and a Gamar Chatima Tova. And now we'll head to Alex, who will read from this week's Parsha.
So on a personal level, I want to wish everybody on this call Shana Tova. May this year be a year of peace and a year where if we want to watch people making war and killing each other, that we go on Netflix and watching Fauda and not when we watch the news. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and Shana Tova. והיה כי יבואו אליך כל הדברים האלה, הברכה והקללה שנתתי בפניך, והשבות אל לבביך בכל הגויים אשר חידיך אדוני אלוהיך שמה ושבת אדוני אלוהיך ושמעת בקולו ככל אשר אנוכי מצווך היום אתה ובניך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ושב אדוני אלוהיך את שבותך ורחמך ושב וקיבצך מכל העמים אשר הפיצך אדוני אלוהיך שמה אם ילדך בקצה השמיים משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וירשת ויטיבך וירבך מאבותיך ומל אדוני אלוהיך את לבבך ואת לבב זרעך לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך.
Thanks, Alex. And I will turn to Michael, who's going to read the English translation.
Michael, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm off now. Sorry. When all these things befall you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you take them to heart amidst the various nations to which your God has banished you, and you return to your God, and you and your children heed God's command with all your heart and soul, just as I enjoin upon you this day, then your God will restore your fortunes and take you back in love. God will bring you together again from all the peoples where your God has scattered you. Even if your outcasts are at the ends of the world, from there your God will gather you, and from there God will fetch you. And your God will bring you to the land that your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and God will make you more prosperous and more numerous than your ancestors. Then your God will open up your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love your God with all your heart and soul in order that you may live.
Thank you so much, Michael. And now we will turn to Isaac, who is going to lead us in a couple of Rosh Hashanah piyutim, with Rosh Hashanah taking place next week.
So piyutim are normally sung to inspire both the congregation and the person saying it. So I've chosen two. One is said at the beginning of Arvit, and it's called Achot Ketana. And all of these piyutim poems are done in acrostic. So the first letter or the first word of every paragraph will make up a particular word. In this case, the whole poem, which is about 12 chapters, which I'm only going to do two, spell out the name Avraham Chazan Chazak. So here goes. It's called Achot Ketana. Achot Ketana tefiloteha orka ve'ona tehiloteha elana refa ana lemachaloteha tichleshana veki לילותיה חיזקו וגילו כי שוד גמר לצו ורוחילו בריתו שאמר לכם ותעלו לציון ואמר סולו מסילותיה תחל שנה וברכותיה. So the first paragraph I sang finished with Tichle Shana vekiloteha. Let this year, with all of its bad things, kileloteha, all of its bad sort of wishes, finishes. And the last paragraph of the same poem, Tachel Shana virchoteha, that the new year should start with all its blessings. And another piyut is said, this is said just before the repetition of the Amidah, and this is one that is said so that the Baal Tfilah, the Shaliach Tzibur, as Avi was mentioning before, prepares himself to represent the people, to be at one with the people, and to sort of be mindful of the words that he's going to say. And it goes like this. Adonai, Shamati Shimacha Yareti, Adonai, Adonai, Nachale Dimotai, Me'ai Hirtichu, Gachale Chatotai, Tuchotai, Igdichu, Dinayeti Vesifrin, Petichu, Lifnei HaMelech Adonai, Adonai, Sifrei Chayim Umetim, Lefanecha Hayom Niftachim, בחסדי אבות ראשונים אנו בטוחים תיקון תפילתנו כריח ניחוחים אדוני פעולך בקרב שנים חייהו אדוני. So the first paragraph I read talks about how the tears of guilt and of the sins that I have committed burn me inside, and that God, I ask you to open the books of life so that you can rule over us and give us life. And then the next paragraph, which is the same but completely different, asks God to open the books of life for everyone. That because of our forefathers, we should all get a good year. And I bless that everyone here and around us, our families and friends, should all get exactly that.
Thank you so much, Isaac. And now we will turn back to you for the Chief Rabbi's prayer.
אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, באנו לפניך בתפילת ובתחנונים, תמהים ושברי לב על המכות האכזריות אשר הוכתה ארצנו הקדושה ועמך ישראל, ביום אשר הופכה חגנו לאבל. אנו מתאבלים על אובדן מאות אנשים, נשים וטף, אשר נרצחו בזדון, ומתפללים על נפשותם. אבינו מלכנו, שלח רפואה שלמה לאלפי פצועי עמך. אבינו מלכנו, רחם על אחינו השבויים, והוציאם מאפלה בצל מוות בגולה, מוסרותיהם תפתח ומצוקותיהם הצילם, והשיבם מהרה לחיק משפחותיהם. אבינו מלכנו הגן על משפחות ישראל מאימת מוות, וחזק חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל אשר שמים נפשם בכפם בהצביעם לקראת אויבינו. אבינו מלכנו אשר בידך לב מלכים ושרים, תקן בעצה טובה מלפניך את שרי ישראל לנצח במלחמתם, כדי שיהיו תושביה שאננים מעין מחריד. אבינו מלכנו פרוס סוכת שלומך על יושבי ארצך ככתוב, ונתתי שלום בארצך ושכבתם בין מחריד, והשבתתי חיה רעה מן הארץ וחרב לא תעבור בארצכם. ברכנו אבינו בביטחון ושלווה, ושים שלום אמיתי וקיים על מדינת ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ארצך. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Thank you so much, Isaac. And now I'll do the prayer for the GCC. May he who gives salvation to kings and dominions to princes, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, who delivers his servant David from the evil sword, who makes a way in the sea and a path through the mighty waters, bless and protect, guard and help, exalt, magnify, and uplift. His Majesty the King of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty the King of Bahrain, His Majesty the Sultan of Oman, His Highness the President of the UAE, His Highness the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness the Emir of Qatar, and all their crown princes. And may the Supreme King of Kings, in his mercy, put a spirit of wisdom and understanding into their hearts and the hearts of all their counselors and officials to deal kindly with us, the house of Jacob, and all the people of this land. Be their shelter and stronghold, and let them not falter. In their days and in hours, may these lands be blessed with stability, prosperity, and peace. May this be his will, and let us say amen. Before I turn it back to Isaac, to usher us out with Shalom Aleichem, just a couple of quick things. Normally this is the time when I kind of give a little commercial for the upcoming weeks. As I mentioned last week, the way the Jewish holidays fall out this year, every Friday is a holiday, or an Erev holiday in the case of Yom Kippur. So we will be off for the month of October. We will be back in the beginning of November, and I know the team is working on some wonderful speakers and presenters through the end of the year. I also just want to take the opportunity to thank you all for joining us. So you join us every single Friday, and it's really, really nice, whether you're, physically in the GCC region, whether you're our friends and supporters who join us from all over the world. I think I could speak for everyone on this call when I tell you that this last year, just having this sense of community, even if it was virtually, really does make a difference to our friends and family in Israel, as well as to the GCC. So I'd like to thank you for joining us. And actually, in a couple of weeks, we're going to celebrate 3 years since the AGJC took over this Zoom. And it's really been an honor and a pleasure to both help to facilitate these as the MC, but also in the work that we do behind the scenes to find speakers. So I just wanted to thank everyone. We also, during the time we won't be meeting, it will unfortunately mark the 1 year since October 7th. So I'd ask that wherever you guys are for the holidays, that you please keep in mind the hostages, their families, the soldiers, who, while we all have the luxury of going and praying in the synagogue and having the holiday meals with our family and friends, there are going to be soldiers who are going to be on the front lines, and they won't have that luxury. So please keep them in your prayers and in mind. And again, I just want to wish everybody a Shana Tova, a Gemar Chatima Tova. May it be a year that the hostages are released before Rosh Hashanah, but may it be a year of all good things, health, prosperity for all. Isaac, over to you.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malche, Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem LeShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malche, Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Barchuni LeShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malach Elyon, Mimelech Malche, Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzetechem LeShalom, Malach Hashalom, Malach Elyon, Mimelech Malche, Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova Metuka.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Bye-bye.